Welcome into Issues on the Point. I'm Jordan Conigliaro. Every Sunday morning, we take a closer look at issues that could affect you, your family, or your neighbor in the greater Pittsburgh community. Dare to be Kind is a movement that got started almost a decade ago. It's one of the many initiatives launched by national kindness expert and author Gabriella van Rij. Last month, she was a featured speaker here in Pittsburgh, sharing her expertise on this topic, and we are pleased to welcome Gabriella this morning. Thank you so much for being with us in Pittsburgh.
Thank you for having me, Jordan.
And you've become an expert on kindness and promoting it. It all started from a very personal experience for you.
Absolutely, very personal. I do what I do because I cannot understand why anyone can go through life unwanted, unnoticed, and unloved. And I think the way we dehumanize others is just breaks my heart. And I said, I can't have this happen, not on my watch. And it happened to me when I was a child, and I just said, you know, we need to do better. And we can do better because kindness is an absolute innate gift that we all have. It transcends every single culture. And the reason I know this for a fact is because every single person that has ever been the recipient of an act of kindness remembers it for a lifetime.
And the Dare to Be Kind movement, and that's hashtag Dare to Be Kind. Tell us how that got started and what that entails now.
Actually, I must honestly say it's the kids that inspired me, because when I wrote my first book, which is a memoir called With All My Might, I was lucky enough to get invited for the US television in LA at that time. And one of the hosts said, I actually read your book. And I said, thank you. And she said, I think you should speak in schools, Gabriella. And I said, sure, where and what do you think, what should this look like? And she said, I love this, this, and this in your book, and I would want my child to know. So then I went home and wrote a program. And then the children really inspired me by hearing their questions about what kindness is, what bullying is, why would someone have a mental illness, or how come you can't see it? Kids ask a lot of questions. And then I said, how do we pick up the ball? And by picking up the ball, I meant picking up values and standards. And out of that grew that I said, why don't we just dare to be kind? And I really mean it when I say dare. And the kids got that, because it is difficult. To pretend that it's easy to be kind is really not true. Kindness is not simplistic. Kindness is actually, you have to think about it, you have to see something to be kind. If I'm all day long, for example, in my cell phone, how can I be kind? Because I don't see the world around me. So I always say to the kids, to the adults, you have to see it. So seeing is the first thing you do, which is part of our slogan, one moment, one person, one kindness, be the difference. And by seeing it, you notice that something needs to be done. And the moment you notice it, you act upon it. And by saying that, I said, let's dare kids. And that's where the word came from, dare to be kind.
We're talking about the Dare to Be Kind movement. This morning we were joined by Gabriella van Rij, a national expert on kindness. She was recently a featured speaker at Robert Morris University discussing this Dare to Be Kind movement, one she started almost a decade ago. Now, gun control legislation, certainly a big issue everywhere, specifically here in Pittsburgh due to recent events. When that topic comes up on the road, how do you approach that coming from your expertise?
Well, the way I say it always is guns don't kill people just because they exist. Same for the classroom. A smartphone is a weapon in the wrong hands. Obviously, these are devastating effects, and I am saddened that this continues to happen. But I'm not here to change legislation. But in a small way, I hope that the Dare to Be Kind movement can help in opening the dialogue, first of all, real dialogue. Not a blame game. And the dialogue would be, for me, is that we try to understand how easy it is to get these guns. And maybe, just maybe, as a non-American, I would say, let's make it more difficult to get to them. And as a standpoint, as an activist and as a kindness expert, I would personally want that we get to these children, and I call them children at that moment, because the hurt starts so many years ago, even if you're an adult and then suddenly you pick up a gun. What we don't understand is that the universal emotion of belonging is so detrimental to your own well-being and health. And that's part of gun control dialogue.
One of the things that you developed was this 2-mile radius
Yes.
philosophy. Tell us about that.
I love that. You know, every show shows that we're going to donate to Africa or China or whichever devastation happens, and I'm all for it, don't get me wrong. But we don't need to travel miles and miles to help people. We need to just look in your 2-mile radius. Homelessness, teen suicide, anything you're passionate about, anything. Go out there. There is an organization that you haven't heard about. Give your time. Even if it's once a month, people would be so happy to have you. That's one way. Just say hi to the barista at Starbucks. Anything that you can do to be kind in your neighborhood.
So simple acts like that. And one other thing that you specialize in is effective communication, specifically
Yes.
in the workplace. When you speak to corporations, what type of advice do you give them about how to speak to people?
In a corporation, I think there's two things we really forget. The first thing is that the body language speaks louder than any of our words, and we forget that. And the second one is, for me, silence. Because I hear this over and over from people that work in groups is, well, they don't like me. I feel bullied. I feel harassed. Well, it's awful when you go every day into a cafeteria and everyone goes silent on you. And that's a form of harassment too. So I would say, look at those cues that you have yourself and understand that we are reactive human beings. I call it action reaction.
Gabriella, thank you so much for joining us here in Pittsburgh on your world tour.
Thank you for having me.
She's Gabriella van Rij, national kindness expert and author. You can learn more about her work on her website, gabriella.global.